Welcome to Eternal Plebcast, your source for random topics in Eternal, discussed by two plebs. I'm Jay Ming, and with me today, and probably all days, is Tall Shark and Handsome. How you doing, Shark?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. I'm doing well as well. Since it's the first episode, we want to go ahead and give a little background on ourselves. I'll go ahead and defer to Tall Shark and let him tell you a little bit about himself and both Eternal and maybe a little bit just about himself in general.
My name's Shark. I consider myself to be old, but that's relative, to the rest of the community here, just a little bit. I grew up playing Magic: The Gathering. I started in 1997, I want to say, so I've been playing for more than 20 years now. And I've always been kind of a competitive player, but I never really cared too much about doing well in high level tournaments. I play a lot of the thing that I play the most right now is Legacy, though I much prefer to play Cube. And I got into Eternal back around set 1.5, which I think is Jack's Bounty. So I only figured that out when they announced the card back that changed based on when you got in.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I've been playing since then. I started streaming a few months ago. I think back in November was my first time streaming. But I've been in the Eternal Twitch community for a really long time. Well, relative to streaming, I've been hanging out in Twitch chats since I don't know, before June, because I stopped opening booster packs in June, and I just kept collecting them until December when I opened 1,000 of them on stream.
Yeah, it was a pretty epic
So
stream.
yeah. Yeah, so you may know me from that, from streaming, maybe from Reddit. I post sometimes there, or maybe just in game.
Okay, great.
How
Uh,
about you?
yeah, I'm J-Mang. I'm also known as JOSU, so like I may have been spotted in almost every single Twitch stream for Eternal in the last year or so. I got into Eternal because I attended PAX East last year, and went to the Direwolf Digital stand because I knew who LSV was because I play Magic,
Yep.
and I was instantly hooked on the game. It was very much like Magic while also being very free to play, which was um, it was very attractive for me as a player because I had already spent so much money in Magic that I had gotten to a point in my Magic career where I was just not buying cards very often anymore. Um, so as far as Magic goes, I am a legacy player. I've been playing Magic again since 2012. I played a little bit as a kid, like for about a year or so. And I also consider myself a pretty competitive player, but I'm also not a grinder. So I enjoy winning, but I do not put in the time and effort to be like, for instance, with Eternal, I don't really try that hard to be top 100 every month. I usually linger around 200 because I'm just not willing to put in that time or really have the time to put in that time to make that grind. I'm a recent father, so that's another reason too, is that I just don't have the time because I have a fiance and a child to care for. Um, and uh, and I've just been super passionate about the game. As far as like achievements go, I haven't really achieved much in ETS, and in the last ECQ I made top 32, so that's something. Um, but yeah, that's about the background for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, so let's go into like what the general purpose of our podcast is. So we want to be like a general information slash discussion style podcast. We want it to discuss any topic, whether it be casual side of the game, competitive side of the game, anywhere in between. Obviously, as the name of the cast suggests, we're two plebs. So if you came here to learn how to be the most competitive player, you're in the wrong place. Like we are trying to cater to the not necessarily the casual, but the greater masses of the game.
Yeah.
People like us who I imagine that a very large portion of the Eternal community are people that they want to win, but they're not going to grind out top 100 every month.
Right, exactly. Yeah, myself, I would put my style in. I like to win the game, but I don't like to play the best deck in the game. I feel
Mm.
like that just kind of like makes it not fun, you know?
Yeah, I definitely also enjoy playing some more off the wall decks, but when I'm trying to win, I will almost always play what I think is the best deck in the format.
You will
Um,
stoop that low.
yeah, I will stoop that low because I do enjoy winning a lot. Um, Another thing about our podcast I wanted to mention to everybody is that we will be covering some like silly topics or deck lists occasionally, and
Mhm.
eventually we would like to build up a large enough viewer base that almost all of our topics, if not all of our topics, are viewer driven questions people have about concepts or just do what would you guys do to my deck list to make it better, more fun? I want to add a certain faction to a deck. Those types of questions are fine, as long or as well as questions such as what should I expect in this metagame coming up on this ECQ, which, leads us to what our first topic is going to be this week. But before that, let's talk a little bit about your week in Eternal.
My week in Eternal has been trying to play while also working 40 hours at a call center. So I sneak in a game or two here between phone calls, and then I get distracted by someone calling in.
Yeah, so
Um,
what have you been
so
playing?
I have been playing our little pet deck for the past
Oh,
set or two.
really? You're
I've been
revisiting
playing
it.
Blitz, revisiting Blitz, the
Okay.
Justice Primal Shadow Blitz. Yeah,
All right.
it's been
How has that been treating you, actually?
it's been super good with the return of Levitate, which now costs one again, but can only target your units. I've kind of removed the Ghost Form and Reinvigorate package
Okay.
because while that was great and explosive, it doesn't really do much when Ghost Form only gets one keyword on two of our units. You know, with Hojin, it already has lifesteal when you target it, and with Geomar, it already has lifesteal when you play a spell. So I
Okay.
thought that kind of doing the levitate would also allows you to draw a little bit deeper if you're about to go off and combo off, but you're missing just like one card. You know,
Okay.
you can kind of get there sometimes. So
Yeah, no, that sounds great to me. Like, that definitely like how highly I thought of that deck, but our
oh yeah,
viewers may not have realized that you and I, towards the end of set four, had created that JPS deck, um,
hmm
in conjunction with the Rock, which who was it? Almost that took it to a top eight.
yeah. He took it to the top 8 of worlds
Yeah, yeah.
in
He
set 4.
he made some changes, but like the Ghost Form reinvigorate
Mm,
package was something that we had come up with, and what really, in my opinion, took that deck over the top.
yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, my experience playing the deck during set five has been that there's just so much good removal, especially with the displays.
Mhm.
But if people aren't expecting it, sometimes I don't play around it. So that, yeah.
Exactly.
So as far
Yeah.
as my week has gone in Eternal is I have been playing the devil of the format, JPS,
Ugh.
or I'm sorry, not JPS, uh,
FJS.
FJS. I've been playing the
Yeah.
devil of the format. Even post bans, I truly believe that this is the best deck you could be playing right now because of its expected win percentage against the greater field. I do think that the deck is really weak to FTP, but I think that with the nerfs, people are less likely to play FJS.
Hmm.
So, or win chest as they want us to call it. I think people are less likely to play it, but it's still good enough that enough people will be playing it. So at the last ECQ, I made the meta call to play FTP which I personally think has an extremely good FJS matchup, and it did before the nerfs. So it's even
Yeah.
better now, but it struggles against a lot of the other meta decks like Haunted Highway or Elysium Mall.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been struggling against Elysian Mall because they run Equivocate, they run the standard that bounces your unit, and after I've dumped all these pump spells into my Blitz boys, it just kind of shuts me out.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just one of those decks that just punishes so many different decks for doing what they should be doing and
Yeah.
playing units. So that actually is kind of interesting because that can perfectly lead into our first topic being the ECQ that's coming up. I realize that every podcast that would be coming out between now and then is going to be talking about this, but I thought that we would come at it with a little bit of a different approach. Um, so first of all, I wanted to discuss the difference between the ECQ and the ETS ECL, starting off with the accessibility. So obviously, it's both styles, both the ETS and ECL and the ECQ are very accessible, but the ECQ has that advantage of being in client.
Yeah,
So
the ECQ is promoted by Direwolf Digital. It's in client. Everyone will see it when they log into the game. Whereas the ETS or the ECL would only be visible to someone who knows the Reddit or the Discord or has seen it on the internet somewhere.
yeah, I feel like it every single week. I see people making posts asking how to get into competitive Eternal.
Hmm.
And me personally, I've known about the ETS since I started playing the game because I uh, usually when I get into something, I immediately check if there's a Reddit and then I check for a Discord and Eternal has both of those. And
Hmm.
you can find that information pretty easily and people are always willing to help. But some people won't look for those sources or ask, so they won't know that the ETS or ECL exists unless they go to Twitch and see that there's a stream. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah, and
with the
see the
ECQ, it's in client.
Yeah, see, for me, the problem that I find is that the ETS and the ECL, because they're player created and player driven, they're made on third party websites, or like for example, Kalari, he designed this amazing website, eternaltournaments.com, I think it is. And it's super great, but it's just a thing that I have to sign up for. And so I've literally only done one tournament in my entire career playing Eternal. Um, well, one player driven tournament. I've casted
Mhm.
it a whole bunch. It's super fun to cast. I have a great time. I totally understand the formats. I understand the cards, so it's easy to do that. But playing in the ECQ, you just throw in some coins, some gems, or whatever, or some gold or gems, and you can just join it without having to join that third party website.
Yeah, that also brings up another point is that the ECQ does have an entry fee versus the ETS and ECL, which are free events to play. I
Hmm.
don't think that a whole lot of players out there realize that you can play in these events for free, but you're not getting in-game prizes. With the ECQ, you get those guaranteed 30 packs, and I think that that really is what drives a lot of the interest in the ECQ versus the ETS. ETS, uh, which gets on average more players than the ECL, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm not totally sure about the history, but I believe the ETS was started first? Question mark.
Yeah, I believe so. I will admit that I'm fairly ignorant towards the ECL since I haven't participated in any of their events. I was planning on playing last Saturday, but I had some family come in from out of town. But I do know that the ETS pretty regularly gets between I'd say 40 and 60 players. Maybe I'm off a little bit on their Saturday game events, which is, a pretty sizable, like for those who play Magic, that's like a large Friday night Magic. Um,
Mhm.
but then we look at the ECQ and we get like 1,000 players.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's so much more accessible, even if it does cost something.
Yes.
Because you know you immediately get something out of it once you're done or once the tournament's over, versus the ETS and ECL, which kind of have these point driven rewards. And at the end of whatever season, that's where the actual cash rewards or Steam gift card rewards are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that the expected value of the events is another very large driver of the amount of people that come out to play. Um, in the ECQ, you're absolutely guaranteed a prize, whereas with the ETS, I mean, you have to top eight if you to get anything.
Hmm.
Um, and then another thing too is with the ECQ, you can play your games at your own pace over the course of 2 days, which is a huge driver.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. Although, I mean, you do have to play quite a few more games than
Yeah,
the ETS or ECL. But the ETS and ECL kind of feel more like a Friday Night Magic. A
yes,
tournament where there's rounds that are timed. Everybody's kind of on their own unless there's an issue, and then you could kind of talk to the tournament organizer. Whereas for the ECQ, there's no tournament organizer really. I remember
yeah.
when the first one they did, they screwed it up so bad, and everybody was super mad. They had to just give away more prizes.
Yes, I actually didn't participate in that one, so I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
I've participated in both of the ones that had the 5Ks, and then I think I participated in the last. No, I participated in two of the trial runs. They're like dry runs.
Hmm.
But the last two are the only two that I like really tried, like dug in and tried very hard at. I played in the first 5K, I played our Blitz deck, which I thought I came within a single win of making the top 64 with it. So I mean, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good
Yeah.
run. And then the last one, like I mentioned earlier, I played FTP, which really paid off because I lost to FJS only once in the entire
Nice.
event, and that was half of my games at least, and my top 64 opponent.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, I lost to Haunted Highway, which is not a very good matchup. Um, And then I guess another thing to mention that's a little more minor. Me as a Magic player, it bothers me a little bit more. But in the ESTS and ECL, because it's a player-driven event, they have to have open deck lists.
Yeah. Yep.
Otherwise, they can't prevent cheating.
Exactly. Yeah. They have to kind of make that open so that people aren't playing like some crazy deck that's using they're swapping decks between matches, that kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Yes, for sure. I personally enjoy the aspect of hidden information, and
Totally.
open deck list makes that a very, very difficult. So as you can tell, I'm a fan of closed deck lists, and the ECQ leading up to the top 64 is a closed deck list format. Your opponents in the first 28 games you play don't know what you're on. They don't know what your list is, and it feels a lot more like a ladder experience, which most of the players of Eternal are used to a ladder experience. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah. So I think that we've pretty much exhausted a lot of the differences between the two, and probably the drivers as to why the ECQ is so wildly more popular than the other two. How about we go ahead and talk about like what we're expecting from this ECQ, and then like the concept of metagaming.
So I've never been particularly good at metagaming. However, you can kind of pull what you're expecting to see from the popular posts on, like Reddit
Hmm.
or even on the top decks on Eternal Warcry. Like, did Manu S post a deck list recently? You're going to see a million of that.
Yes, actually that'll be our next topic will be about the influence of content creators on the tournament scene as well as the ladder scene. But you're absolutely correct. A lot of the time, influence from tournament reports or tournaments in general, as well as content creators, can influence the metagame. But I also think, especially with the ECQ, metagaming is a concept that is almost always incorrect. This is coming from a guy who literally metagamed the last ECQ, and it paid off for me by metagaming. But I think that the metagame pre FJS ban, I don't mean ban, nerfs, as well as the other nerfs and buffs that came from that patch. The metagame was so heavily favored towards FJS that I think that it was a correct call in this 1 out of 100 instance to metagame. But generally, it's incorrect to metagame. You want to probably put more generalized answers into your deck.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be playing something that you're super comfortable with it. Like, for example, I would probably play Blitz right now because I've been playing it for the past week or so. And I've played enough games to know kind of the lines that I'm looking for, the holes that I'm looking for in my opponent's defenses. Whereas, somebody else who's played a whole bunch of, Fire, Justice, Shadow, FJS, like you might be more comfortable with that.
Yes,
Um,
I
but
absolutely agree.
yeah, and there are some people who are like, I'm expecting a whole bunch of this, so I'm going to play this deck that's supposed to beat it. But if you don't know all the lines of that deck, you won't see all the lines, and your game, your gameplay won't be as good as if you just brought the deck that in and out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, and this is a concept that especially shows up in Legacy with Magic, is that if you take a deck that you understand inside and out, you're going to do a whole lot better than if you were if you were metagaming um, to try and beat a certain deck. That FTP deck that I took to the last ECQ, I didn't just pick it up um, because I thought that FJS was there. I was playing it already because FJS was everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, so that's what I made my Masters grind last month. Speaking of which, I've been struggling with Master grinds recently. I think that the influx of new players has really made the game a lot more difficult, and that's a net positive. But that's probably a discussion for another time.
yeah.
So let's kind of just quickly go over like what kind of decks are like meta right now. We've already mentioned a handful. FJS is obviously meta. There's like at least three different versions.
Hmm.
Some people are playing the eight merchant, well, I should say smuggler version still. Sometimes they cut it down to six. I'm actually playing a four merchant, or I'm sorry, smuggler version.
They're
Uh,
still merchant creature
that
type.
that's more of a control version of the deck.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, I'm seeing a lot of Praxis tokens now, and I'm pretty sure that somebody posted a list. And I'm sorry to Lights Out Ace, but Praxis tokens is pretty popular right now. He hates that list.
Yeah, you're right. I have been seeing a lot of Praxis tokens, so that's another list. And I've been noticing that they've been playing Amaran Stinger, which
Hmm.
does not seem like a good, like it got buffed, but it's not like that good of a buff to warrant being played, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Like, I just don't
Yeah,
think the card's that good, especially in something like Praxis tokens. Do you really want that to be your three drop?
right. Yeah, I think that there is a wide gulf between this limited All Star and the being constructed playable in a tournament deck. I feel like the only reason why it's even close to playable for that list is because sometimes you just get one or two scorpions immediately, and that adds little tiny units to your board, which if that's your entire game plan, that makes sense.
Okay,
But
yeah.
it's kind of more RNG based than anything.
So some of our other decks that are definitely meta right now, FTP is still around. I actually, as somebody who really, really likes the deck, I think that this is a terrible deck to be playing right now. Even though it has a good FJS matchup, there are more of the other meta decks out there than there was at the previous ECQ, and you're just gonna get torn up by Maul and Haunted Highway. Like they're just not great matchups.
Yeah,
Like
you're
I
not playing enough cards to empty your hand for Maul, and if you are, then they're not the cards that you really want to be playing.
Yeah, yeah, Maul, both of those matchups are very dependent on your draws. Like you have to
Mhm.
draw against Maul, you have to draw like the right eighth of your deck is the problem with Maul, and then with Haunted Highway, it's a matter of drawing the right half of your deck. I
Mhm.
lost my game three against Haunted Highway in the top 32 because I drew nothing but creatures, and drawing all your creatures is not where you want to be in that matchup. You want to
No.
have like mostly spells and like a couple creatures because you don't ever want to play more than one creature.
Right, yeah, because if you play more than one, then they can just madness combust you both of your creatures away, two for one, yeah.
So we just mentioned, I believe that Haunted Highway and Elysium Mall are still very meta. They're very popular decks. Another one that's more of a newer deck, I haven't been seeing a whole lot of it in the last week, but I'm sure that it'll come back out, is that Kamado um, Chains deck, the Combre one,
Combre
which is,
chains, yep.
yeah, I'm sure that deck is going to come out. It's very powerful when it does what it's trying to do. It's hard to stop them when they have a hand where they go into, I forget what the two power stone is, but
I think it's just Power Stone.
I thought the power stone was the one power. Anyways,
Uh,
so they play that, and then from there they play the Marshall, and then you can't stop the ramp machine. Like they're there already. And
Eternity Core. That's the
yeah, that's
four
correct.
power add to maximum power. Gotcha, gotcha. I thought you were talking about the two cost,
I've been hearing that temporal is starting to show up again, which is not fun for anybody. Ev-
especially Lord of Slam.
Yeah, every everybody wants to hate on FJS, but temporal was worse. Like temporal was not fun to be seeing all the time. And then there's always going to be aggro. We're going to see Skycrag, which has been seeing a lot more play lately. Like I've been seeing a lot of Skycrag.
I've seen a ton of Rakano because it's cheap to build,
Hmm.
and it just runs you over with Hojins and champions and all this cheap removal and pump.
Yeah, and it also made the top four of the last ECQ. So I wouldn't
Hmm.
be shocked to see it, at least some number of people playing it for that fact alone. The only thing that got hit that deck regularly played, because I don't think it played Avigraft any more than like one maybe
Yeah, like one or two.
in the market, but it's Smuggler got hit with a like one less toughness, which that deck really doesn't care that much about.
Doesn't care about blocking.
Yeah.
That's where you do math.
Um, I'm sure I'm missing so many other decks in there, but I think that those are the ones that we're going to be seeing in the most numbers.
Yes, I feel like there's going to be some kind of maybe a Feln reanimation thing that's going on, or
You're right.
Xenon reanimation with like Azendel, but for the most part, those other ones I think are going to be the ones that we're going to see in the most numbers.
Yeah, so that's actually this will kind of blend with our next topic about influence of content creators. I believe a week ago, Manus had posted a Xenon reanimator list, and then that's basically half of what I saw on ladder for the next few days. So
Yeah.
from there, we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is the influence that content creators and tournament results tend to have on the ladder meta, as well as maybe some other metas, but mostly the ladder meta.
Yeah. So whenever I'm looking for a new deck to play, I'll ask, people who watch my stream or people who that I trust as, decent players. But oftentimes I'm just like at work and I'll go on Eternal Warcry and I'll look at the top decks that are trending right now, and I'll look for names that I know. I'll look for people that I know are streamers, people that I know, names that I don't recognize. I'm not going to look at your list really. I
Mm.
mean, sometimes it'll be a really cool name or a cool idea, and I'll take a look at it. But I tend to value those names that I recognize more than names that I don't, and that's probably the consensus of most of the people who know about Eternal Warcry.
Yeah, I definitely think that. So tournament results, that obviously is always going to have an effect because people are going to look at that, see what's winning, and they're going to copy it. And I will say, I do know that some people get really, really upset at the concept of net decking, which is an absolutely silly thing to get upset over, if you ask me. But I'm not much of a deck builder. And on top of that, I'm really not that much of an innovator with deck lists at all. That's why I was so proud of Dark Blitz when we made it, because that's not something like I don't very often come up with a concept that I actually think is fairly good, because I'm what I would call a player. Like if somebody gives me a good deck list and I can figure out how to play it, I think that I feel that I can play a deck well.
Yeah,
But
agreed. I'm no Grim fan. I can't make like any list work in Masters and gain ranks. Like he had never seen our Blitz deck before, and he took it and he was in like top 50s Masters, made it to top 40s with it, and he was like, "Well, I feel like I'm going to punt this pretty soon, so I'm going to give up while the getting's good."
yeah, I definitely think that he was helpful in the rise of that deck list. Not to mention, I mean, uh, teams would hate having me on there because I all I wanted to do was tell everybody about that deck. Obviously if I was on a team and there was secret information, I wouldn't be all trying to share it with anybody. But
Right.
but his influence helped rocket that deck into the front line to where people that I had never seen before in Twitch chat or anything would end up being in a mirror match with me and then add me afterwards and was like, "Oh, I saw, like, thanks for the deck list," or whatever. Or they would ask me if I've made any changes, because there was for a while there where we would keep a deck list, but it wasn't always like the most up to date version of the deck
Right. Yep.
list. But I definitely met a handful of people during that time because you had credited me to being a co-creator of that deck. Um,
Yeah. And I think that for the first like month that I was streaming, that's all I played. I did drafts and I played Blitz, and I am so surprised that my stream grew at all. Honestly,
I mean, you're an entertaining guy, and that's why people gravitate towards you.
hopefully.
Not saying anything about your play skill. Your play skill is there too, but
Well, there's a
um,
punt counter for a reason.
everybody punts. I definitely another really, really, really good example, in my opinion, is when you went on to Sonny's podcast, or I'm sorry, it was a more of a live show, live stream, um, when you guys created that rat deck, and I started seeing that on ladder, and that deck is, I mean, the deck is fun, but we can't actually say that the deck is good, like, to be honest.
it, it surprised me at how well I was doing. I was 1400 masters and I made it up to like 1100 at a certain point, but the deck just kind of rolls over to Boar, which is in the market of every single FJS list,
Yep.
which is the most popular deck. So it was only going to get so good.
Yeah, Boar is a very, very good Eternal card.
Yes.
Um, And so another thing that you tend to notice with these is that a lot of these decks, let's say 1 out of 10 ends up becoming what I would call a true meta deck. The other nine, these are decks that you'll see for a day or two, and then everybody will start switching back to like what they're used to playing or what they feel comfortable with. So
Yeah.
if you really feel the need to metagame, even though you shouldn't do that. Sometimes, pay attention to what the content creators are putting out there, and you may know what you're going to play against half the time.
Yeah, at least for like the weekly tournaments, like the ETS, the ECL, that kind of, well, probably closer more the ECL than anything. But yeah, that's where you're going to see the people who are playing the more popular decks, and that could be a good metagame choice.
Hmm.
But like when you see one of these stupid lists, that like the one that Sonny and Sonny was like, "Hey, I want to build a deck around Severin," and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And so we did, and then we found out that it was it was working relatively well when you didn't get hit by boar, and we posted it, and I even put in the description of the deck that it wasn't super great, but it was really fun, and that's kind of what this game is all about, having fun.
Yeah,
And so you saw the deck, happen for a couple of days on the ladder, and then people were like, "Well, that was fun. I'm sick of getting killed by boar. Let's play something real."
yeah, definitely. It was one of those lists that I didn't spend the shift stone to create it, but it looked like a lot of fun. And just like Blitz, you can surprise the shit out of somebody that's not expecting it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I actually there was a version of the rat list that had primal in. I don't know if you I forget who posted it. Somebody had posted this deck list and it wins by like making all of the rats really big with overwhelm because it has the
Bizarre Stampede.
yeah, exactly. Blew me out.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing FJS and I had the harsh rule in hand. I'm like, I'll be fine.
They're one ones. What's the
Yeah,
worst that could
I'll
happen?
be fine. And then he had exact lethal the next turn and I was just like,
Well,
well, that's a
that
lesson
one's on me.
learned. Now I know if I see rats in this color combination that I should harsh rule on 5.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
okay, so we'll go ahead into our last topic, which is a little bit more of a this will be pretty quick, I imagine. So what are our favorite meme song requests when we're viewing somebody such as Bassoon Buffoon or yourself, because you also have meme song requests active.
Yeah. Yep. See, I don't really care about what people request in my stream. I'm totally willing to listen to anything. It's more when my stream gets mad at the song that we're listening to that I will, listen and be like, okay, all right, once is enough, that kind of thing. But my those of you who have watched my stream before, you'll know that my entire playlist of default music is all covers of songs that everybody already knows, but they're done by a punk rock band or an alternative rock band, that kind of thing, because I love covers, I love mashups, all that kind of stuff. And one of the guys who frequents my channel, his name goes by Heroic Raptor. He found this guy named DJ Cumberbund, who will pull out these awesome mashups. For example, there's one that's just called "That Which I Desire," and it starts off with "Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire" by Metallica, but it's like some like jazz funky music underneath it, and then he like tweaks the rhythms and stuff, and so that's
I've
pretty cool.
I've heard some of that on your stream.
Yep.
Can't say I'm necessarily a fan, but like, they're meme songs. Like you gotta
Yeah.
appreciate them for what they are. My for me, like mine's a lot more vanilla. Like I actually just really enjoy
I already know it. I
uh,
already know it.
playing Skibbity and um, just like the first 6 or 7 times I requested it on Buffoon's stream, he would get about it. The same thing happened every single time. He'd get about 30 seconds in, and he'd be like, "I don't think I like this," and then skip it, like he had never heard it before. And then
Yeah, he's like, I
finally,
don't think I like this one.
like on the 8th time, he was just like, "I've heard this song before," and I'm like, "Like, come on."
That's true. That's
But
true.
so I'm pretty vanilla with that, like as far as meme song goes, because I don't really know that many. I will
Well,
always request covers.
yep, covers are great. Another one that's been really popular, at least in my stream, somebody requested Toto's Africa, except all the words are put in alphabetical order. So
I
it's
haven't
like
heard that one.
it's the entire song, except it's just chopped up into all the different separate words, and they're put in alphabetical order. So it starts off with Africa, Africa, and it's just like all the different times that they say Africa in a row, and all the
Okay,
different times.
we'll have to have you play this the next time you stream and I'm watching. I'll mention it in chat. That's great. I think my least favorite one that I hear on your stream and Bassoon Buffoon's stream almost every single time you guys stream is the "I can only count to 4."
Oh my
I
gosh,
am
yeah,
so over that song. I like it. For those who
yeah,
don't know, it's to the tune of "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor," but it's like they can only count to 4, and they're just counting to 4 throughout the entire song. And
yeah,
it dry and the System of a Down mashups are also really bad, like really hard to listen to because like I don't want to sound like an old asshole, but like it I really, really liked System of a Down when I was young, and like I felt like it's doing them an injustice because they're such a better band than
That's true. But see, I'm totally willing to listen to anything as if someone took the time to request it and they really want to listen to it, I'm down with it. Um, Even if it's a meme song, I know my brother will post a whole bunch of meme songs that I would, I would be like, can we listen to something else if we were in front of each other? But on stream, sure.
I'm fairly certain your brother is the one that requests I can only count to four every single time.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
my chat
yeah,
probably.
yeah, definitely, definitely in yours. All I'm saying is that every time Bassoon Buffoon or Tall Shark and Handsome streams, everybody should request Skippity. So every week we want to do a streamer of the week, and I think that the most obvious choice for our first podcast should be Bassoon Buffoon,
Obvious.
because Bassoon Buffoon is, first of all, the reason that Tall Shark and Handsome and I met, as
Yep.
well as catered to a very meme-tastic group of people in his Discord. And I
Yeah.
think that Bassoon Buffoon was probably a large portion as to the reason why you stream. Am I correct?
Exactly. He very much was. He was the first streamer that I kind of settled down in. I was like, okay, this is a great channel. I'm going to follow this guy. I'm actually going to visit him when he comes back on. And it's funny. He is literally the reason why I know how to do anything with Nightbot. He one day in chat, somebody asked him if they could be mod, and he was like, sure. And then somebody else asked if he could be mod, and he was like, sure. And eventually he was just like, you know what? Everybody's going to be mod. And he gave like all 50 people who were watching mod
The great
privileges on his
modding.
the great modding. Yes. And
I was lurking that day, and that's how I became a mod.
exactly. Same here. And so while I was a mod, whenever he would like say or do something, he's like, man, I wish I had this. I would like go and Google how to do it with Nightbot, and I would create that command. And so I was kind of using his channel as a way to figure out how to use Nightbot for my own channel. And eventually it proved very fruitful because now I have a pretty great Nightbot set of commands and my own, I wouldn't say booming channel, but my,
I mean,
my own
I
growing
think that
stream.
you're one of the more popular streamers nowadays. To be honest, I think that around 50, you have around 50 subscribers, correct?
Yeah. So when I did my 1,000 pack opening stream, I was giving away subscriptions as prizes for people who guessed the legendary correctly. So at the beginning of January, I had about 68, but when all of those went away, I was still at 48. So
Okay, perfect. That's
and
great.
just under 50. But I'm pretty proud of that. I've only been streaming for 3 months, so
Yeah, that's very, very good. So Bassoon Buffoon, for those who don't know, I don't know how you don't know who Bassoon Buffoon is if you're
if you
listening
know
to
who
this
we are.
cast. Bassoon Buffoon is a Yeti streamer because that's probably what he plays about 80% of the time. He
Yep.
always likes trying weird or new decks out on stream. He doesn't seem to think very highly of himself, but I actually think that Bassoon Buffoon's a very good player.
Yeah, he
Obviously,
is.
he's made quite a few top eights in the ETS. I think that he's very entertaining to watch. He has one of the best laughs, if not the best laugh in Eternal.
Yes, his laugh is very contagious. He's very friendly on his stream. He's super nice. He'll
Mhm.
answer any question that you want answered. And he's got just the best dog, Scout.
Yeah,
And
Scout and Eternal.
put Scout in Eternal hashtag.
Yes.
Um, and I'm pretty sure that it as I think as Sir Rhino said on one of the more popular streams for one of those tournaments. He said that Bassoon Buffoon is um, definitely is there's what did he say? He said something about how Bassoon Buffoon is definitely the worst player in Eternal, but he's always in the top of Masters. He's always in top 8 of tournaments and stuff. It's just kind of his running joke that he's terrible. And sometimes he just like lets that joke roll, but sometimes he's actually really good at the game,
Yeah,
and
I think he just
he's
likes to have fun, and that's really what's important. is that you're
Exactly.
enjoying the game. So that's I believe it's twitch.tv/bassoon buffoon.
Yep.
Definitely go over there and give him some love if you haven't already. Again, first podcast. I'm assuming that everybody that's listening to this podcast already knows who he is, but
Yeah. Both
we,
of you listening, you
yeah,
probably already know.
yeah, we definitely wanted to make sure that Bassoon Buffoon knew that we appreciate him and that he deserves everybody's love.
He does indeed.
So, we're going to go ahead and close out the podcast here. I'd say if you have any questions or topic suggestions, please leave a comment wherever. I'm sure that I'll end up posting this on Reddit. It's going to go up on YouTube. I will put it on SoundCloud as well. Probably not comment there because I don't really know how well the comments work there, if they even have comments at all. Another place that if you happen to have access to Tall Shark and Handsome's Discord, um, we have a section there for topic ideas. Go ahead and throw them in there. We'll definitely consider every single topic idea that people throw at us.
Yep.
So, closing out, where can they find you, Tall Shark?
So you can find me on Reddit under Tall Shark and Handsome. You can find me on Discord as Tall Shark and Handsome. You can find me on Twitch as Tall Shark and Handsome.
All right, perfect. That's
Pretty simple.
twitch.tv/Tall Shark and Handsome.
Yes. Oh, and on Twitter, I am at Shark and Tall because Tall Shark and Handsome wouldn't fit.
Nice, nice. So for me, I don't stream very often, but if you want to go ahead and give me a follow, it's twitch.tv/JOSU, not JMing. Um, and I'm not super active on Twitter, so I wouldn't suggest trying to find me on there, but it's JOSU as well. And then I am also on Reddit as JOSU, but it's very likely if you're listening to this, you saw me post this. So,
Yeah, yeah, probably.
and then I'm also active in both BB's and Tall Shark's Discords. If you have any questions, I'm always willing to help and talk about just about anything. So for now, we're going to go ahead and sign off. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let us know if there's anything we need to improve on. Does the sound all right? All right?
Yeah.
Are the
Yeah.
videos okay? Positioning, like, do people even care? Like, are you
Yes, feel
listening?
free.
Are we alone? Uh, are my eyes open? I can't see anything.
Yeah, feel free to tell us how much we suck. We'll take any kind of comments, positive, negative, super negative, nihilistic. What you ate for breakfast.
Yes,
Anything.
and I'm okay with you correcting us on things, but if you're going to be an asshole about it, I won't listen. So,
Yeah, yeah. If you're
um,
gonna be an asshole about it, I'll listen, and then I'll tell Jay.
but for now, hopefully we'll see you guys next week. If not, I'm sure within a couple weeks we'll have another episode out for you. Thank you.
Definitely. See you later, guys.
Have a good one.